After we had this program going and cleaning up the vacant lots, we soon recognized any other thing we're overlooking here. Ooh, vacant land has always been a resource for most communities. You can grow food on it. So we started scratching and found, oh, it's pretty rubble, not very healthy. But there's food and animal waste as well as landscaping waste. We can compost and enrich the soils. So the next project after the mobile buyback was the urban agriculture. First, community gardens, and when we noticed that it was a little difficult for families to come back every year with the commitment they'd had the previous year, we thought, let's do farms, a bigger space to a family, and they turn it into their family business, and a farm that has an economic reason to draw them back every year. That's their livelihood. Now that you have this little machine, physical and human resources ingeniously combined to be a indigenous local business. That's our process. So from cleaning up lots to urban agriculture, we also added Blackstone bikes along the way, which capture the needs of teenagers to have a little more speed and energy than you get in farming. Farming is a little bit too pastoral for the teenager. And what we were finding that kids that had worked with us on farming and garden through their early years, by age 10 or so, were noticing their neighbors working as lookouts for the gangs who were selling drugs, getting $20 a day. So we need something in our program with a little bit of masculinity, of assertiveness. So Blackstone Bikes was the next program. And so the Resource Center has grown beyond just recycling, composting, and urban agriculture to even doing creative reuse. We salvage from the industrial waste stream to make materials available for schools and artists. And we also distribute foods to homeless shelters and soup kitchens, food that is surplus to our farming, and also food that's surplus to local industry like Whole Foods and Panera. Our economic model to expand this urban agriculture depends on it operating with earned income. For example, this 1 acre produces $160,000 of value of product every year, and that's enough to supply 4 people with incomes from $25,000 to $30,000 a year, which is a family raising income. But we do that by selling 2/3 of the product to high-end restaurants at quite dear prices because it's very high quality produce. But we have a farm stand just right over there on every farm that we sell at a sliding scale. So the other 1/3 is sold to make sure that the product is used for better nutrition in the community as much as possible. And I often tell people who ask, well, how far do you slide when you're on a sliding scale? I give the example of one of our first customers. This was in a farm in Inglewood. An older lady came with $1 in her hand and said, how many tomatoes do I get for $1? We grow heirloom tomatoes that weigh $1. We sell to Rick Bayless here at Frontera Grill at $4 a pound. I wasn't going to give her a quarter of a tomato. She got 6 tomatoes. Why? Because I think assets belong in this place they were found, and the jobs in these farms belong in the local community, and as much as possible the produce belongs in that community. And that elderly lady probably had a family of 6 she was feeding on what she was able to buy, and I would be able to provide her a better meal than if she would go to any other store with that $1. So she got a bag of 6 tomatoes for her $1. Our first venture on the vacant lots was without anybody's permission. We cleaned up the garbage with the first project and started farming without any connection with the city. And in fact, we did buy our first property for a farm, and that's at 70th and Dorchester, and we still farm it. But there's expenses involved in owning land, not only the purchase, but upkeep according to city standards and all of that. So we've since evolved the model of mobile farm. This compost that's on this farm, this tool structure, office structure, fence, hoop house, have been in 4 locations in the past 25 years. First in Grand Crossing, then Inglewood, then across the street where that new building is, and now here. And continuing next year, all of this will be half a block east. So we strike a deal with the landowner, kind of cooperating with this curious process of rollover. Communities are neglected, they decay, they're demolished, and then they're rebuilt. Land stays vacant and unbeneficial to anybody. In fact, actually a detriment to the community by being trashy. So we make a deal with the landowner. We'll protect it, beautify it, provide jobs and service to the local community at no cost for you, and you provide the land to us at no cost. So this is city-owned property. This 1 acre sold for $3.2 million. Part of our deal with them is they owe us an acre. They'll just tell us where this acre goes. So they've sold. There'll be a building here. Part of our deal with the developer is that they will grow on the roof, and we'll be asked to work with the tenants of the building to have gardens on their own building roof. And we'll be on a new farm, larger, just west of here. So our deal primarily is no ownership. There's too much obligation and too much expense of ownership land. Farmers throughout the nation can vouch to that. It's cheaper to sell to a city subdivision than to farm anymore. 40 years after we first started our first farm, we have 5 farms. This location is 1 acre. We have 2 farms in Inglewood and a farm in Grand Crossing, and 2 farms further south. Well, that might be Inglewood also. And the structure, we're a nonprofit, and our goal is to, by earned income, keep any project we got going operating. And each farm has a farm manager whose responsibility is to plant and utilize the farm well enough so that wages could be paid. And our systems have several sustainability devices. First of all, to protect from the industrial pollution that has been in this city for a century. We found no soil that is free of lead, arsenic, zinc, cadmium, things we don't want in our food chain. So we developed the practice of sealing the layer, sealing the lot with compacted clay, and we most recently developed the berm of compacted clay, so it's a bowl. So that not only protects us from contamination that's on the property, but also retains all rainwater within the property. So in that bowl of compacted clay, we place 2 foot deep of compost, which is our sole source of clean material to be growing in. And we then are always able to grow up to 10 crops a year in each bed, because like a conventional farmer, 3 crops a year kind of depletes the soil. We add 4 inches of compost every year so that we can get 10 crops a year off of each bed without depleting the soil. In fact, we're just completing the food cycle, and the food doesn't know how many crops are being cycled off the same soil. We, excuse me, we also sell most of our product to high-end restaurants that contract with us to take away their food waste to compost to bring back to the farm. Since a high volume of food is being returned to the farm in the form of compost, we can take off these 10 crops with no depletion or injury to our crop. So our model is ready for promulgation to the 40,000 acres in the city. The last meeting I had with the city of Chicago, they said, we've got 11,000 acres that we own that we'd like you to do this deal, improve, protect, and make useful in exchange for the no value. Of course, there's one glitch. We don't have that in compost, fencing, tool sheds. So we need $50,000 to be the startup cash for tools, tool shed, and fencing. And this model can be spread to every vacant lot in the city. His being able to pay more, being tapped into the affluent segment of our society, we can build some value in less affluent communities. So he can subsidize me selling 5 pounds of tomatoes to a woman in Inglewood for $1 that he would pay $4 for a pound of. In producing as a farmer, you can do it two ways. In a mediated way by machinery and chemicals, or an honest way with your hands.